What's up, Zox fam? So we got the 2x event that's coming up, and I know that some of you guys missed the first one and are probably wondering also, has the prioritization for the 2x event changed? Are there other things that you might want to consider? And so I want to kind of jump into that based off of where you might be, whether you've been playing since the very beginning or you just picked up the game and you've only been playing for like maybe a week, maybe two, right? What exactly should you be trying to aim for with this 2x event? Now, with the 2x event, I think it's really important to understand what exactly you're basically having more value on, right? Like, or what the value is that's being boosted. So if we go to all the dungeons, right? And this is, of course, for those of you guys that this is going to be your first 2x dungeon, right? Or 2x event. What you're basically going to have is the increase on Animus XP, prowess material, and the module drop, right? So those are the three different types of farms that you're going to have accessible for the 2x event. Now, what's really important to note is what exactly is the resource yield? Like, what are you getting from doing each thing? Now, obviously from doing the GP Outpost, you get skill up mats, which is like pretty straightforward, right? But when you're doing things like the Animus XP, I think that it doesn't really like clearly depict what it's actually giving you. Like, it'll show you here like EXP books, and it'll also show you shadow prints, but what it's also giving you is summon currency, right? So you have the opportunity to also get summons like Animus prototypes, for example, and that's something that also will, on the 2x, if one drops, it is guaranteed to basically double it. So that's something that actually ends up being really powerful for those looking to get more summons on their account as well. A lot of us that farmed this the last 2x event, we ended up with a crazy amount of extra summons and shadow prints and EXP books, etc. right? And then of course for the module drop, the main thing with that is it's just giving you an opportunity to get some extra gear drops, which is just kind of the entire premise of that, right? Now, the main thing with this, okay? What is going to be your primary focus based off of where you might be? So if you're fairly new, I think one of the main things that you're really going to need to fixate on is going to be the GP Outpost, but I also think that that's going to be needed to be combined with Animus XP. Now, I feel like the reason why this is because typically when we're talking about your average or regular farm, I think that these are probably the two dungeons you don't farm nearly as much when there's no 2x event, right? And not to say that people don't do it, because obviously they will, but I feel like these dungeons don't really feel as impactful or as great to farm comparatively to doing like obviously the shell drop, right? I think that we could argue that most people should have spent majority of their farming time in shell farming, pretty much more than almost everything else. So I would say maybe next up would probably follow up the module drop. But to be real, shell farming is like still like just top priority, even at this point, because now players are trying to shift into the third matrix slot. So that's a whole nother basically a regrind that you're having to go through, right? Now, the thing is that with these two different farms, right, the GP Outpost and the Animus XP, let's talk about the actual value, right? So farming GP Outpost is not just about you being able to skill up the character if you have the lattice, because I think some people might look at it for that. It's like, oh, well, I need lattice in order for me to really get value out of the GP farm. Not necessarily. It depends on what exactly you're building and who the unit is, because when you look at the prowess on every character has that parameter rim where it's basically giving you more base stat, right? And more base stat is definitely something that you want to have, right? As much of it as you possibly can. So starting to target those things on certain characters is going to help you out tremendously, because that's more bulk, that's more attack, that's more HP, whatever it may be that character is really emphasizing, and that could affect their scaling if they scale off of HP or scale off of defense or attack, right? So that's always going to be something that's really nice to have, even if you're not actually going in and going any further with the lattice. That's again just kind of for what it's worth. Some characters you can emphasize it a little bit more, some obviously a little bit less. Now, the main thing and why I feel like Animus XP is probably going to be one of the most important things for you to farm is because Animus XP is going to allow you to be able to increase your, or make it easier for you to max out units that you have at, say, 5-star, and then being able to work on taking units to 6-star, right? Now, why is this important? Well, the main reason why this is so important is because one of the things that drastically changes about a unit when you raise their rarity, like say, for example, we go to my class, we go to start upgrade, it's their base speed. Okay, so a lot of the characters that you're going to be investing in, it's going to be like basically on average 2 types of units that you're going to be considering, which is either going to be your DPS because you need more damage, or it's going to be a support that you need to maybe be opening, or a support that maybe might need more bulk because that's also what they scale off of. It's a couple of different reasons as to why you would 6-star a unit. But even when we start looking outside of the lens of the early game progression, and we start looking at, for those that have been playing since day one of the biggest things is getting your characters to the point of being at level 50. I feel like the level 50 push is actually one of the things that can drastically change the general performance of your character, because it's a ton of base stat value that they get, but then they also have their max scaled potential base values, right? So their base speed is at their highest. They have, and this is obviously not including like the skill ups, but just from this, which is a tangible thing that you can control to do like right now, it's going to allow you to be able to get more value out of that character. Now, the other thing that's actually really important about this too is that it's not just about being able to do the PvE dungeons for the thresholds, right? Like obviously threshold dungeons are really important, and I will say that the more investment that those characters have, the easier it becomes for you to do. Like say for example, like you've been using I don't know, Kashi the Guard at 5-star. If you 6-star a character like that, then he literally now becomes even more tankier, right? Same thing with characters like Ling Lo or Mia. Like their performance doesn't just change necessarily based around what their kit does, because it's not really the point as much. It's really more so that they're able to survive. They're able to take those hits. I think it's also safe to say going into Inferno for more consistent runs, your units need to be more built, right? So I think that that's kind of the thing that you're looking at. If you're trying to make that Inferno push, that's really going to be something that really helps you out tremendously. Now, the thing with this too, okay, is that like I said, we don't just have to factor in the threshold dungeons. You have to also consider the fact that there are other pieces of content like the Ethernet rally. And one of the things that I could say, like I said before, like a lot of us that actually put stamina into the XP dungeon, we were able to 6-star so many units. It actually allowed us to have more fleshed out units, so that like when I actually look at like my roster and like generally how many units I have, like either at 45 to, you know, the 6-star mark, since that last 2 times event, I've probably done a couple more, maybe 2 or 3 more 6-stars on my account, just because I haven't been personally rushing it. But it makes this type of content much easier to do, right? The other thing that we just had recently, which was the Cage Rumble, that's going to be much easier for players to do when they have more units diversified and actually leveled for them to be able to throw in. Because I think one of the issues that you just kind of run into is, even if you do have units, if they're sitting at like 3-star or 4-star, then you really can't use them in a lot of content, because the content, especially at this point, it scales, right? It scales so much. So there's some scenarios if you have like crazy speeds where you can get away with certain characters, which I don't really factor that as to be the norm. Normally, if a character is not built or is at least not at that 5-star mark, they usually don't really do well in a lot of the current content if you've been playing since day one. So that's kind of what I've been like kind of looking at, and what my game plan is basically based around. Like I've even been 6-starring characters that I really have no business 6-starring, like Obero, RC77, right? And this is just so that I have other options. But I think that for those of you guys that are making, you know, those real defined smart choices, you're definitely going to want to make sure that the characters that you're really trying to have emphasize or give you the most push on your account, you're actually taking them to the next level. And I feel like Animus XP is going to do that. And again, you're not just getting XP, but you're getting the portraits, which is huge, right? And just farming that alone will allow you to be able to have enough portraits to be able to work on potentially 5-starring and 6-starring a ton of characters, the XP to take them straight to 50 right away, or 45 right away. And then on top of that, you also have the chance of getting summons, which I will say that, like, when you think about the other farms, like, you're going to always be farming modules, right? And I think that that's something that's kind of like, I could use the 2x event for something like that. And I know somebody's going to probably ask, should I use the 2x event for farming modules? And it's like, yes, you can. But I also feel like if you're like, if that's all you've been kind of doing anyway, I feel like it makes more sense to put that excess stamina into a 2x for things that you don't typically farm. I feel like you're not going to farm as much Animus XP and farming for portraits nearly as much as you're going to farm for gear. Like, gear is just going to be the lifeline of what you do in this game. So I feel like when it comes down to you trying to kind of X out things that you don't really have to touch nearly as much anymore, the more that you're able to build up most of your roster, and then you kind of go into your daily routine with just kind of accumulating resources from event to event, it will get to a point where you're gonna probably rarely have to really think about raising a star rarity of a character over time, right? Like, it is going to get to that point. Like, if you kind of go through that process now and you get a vast majority of the base bulk of the units that you really want to invest in or use to that 5-star, that 6-star mark, you're not really going to have to push that nearly as much. Whereas like gear finding, gear tuning takes forever. Like, you're going to always be doing that versus like there's a limitation on obviously how many units you actually have on your account and how many you actually might build in the first place, right? Like, you're really going to be building characters according to like a need-based scenario, and then also what you could potentially skill up or lattice even. So I think that that's just kind of like my game plan. I just wanted to kind of talk about that though, because I know the last videos were from the first 2 times event, and at that point in time, it was definitely a different point at which we were in terms of progression, but I still feel like the thing that gave the most impact was Animus XP, right? I really feel like that's going to be the dungeon that a lot of people are going to be able to see crazy progression on their account, and it's really going to actually feel like you have things that are more usable than not, right? Because a lot of the times units can be you can make units work with even like some hand-me-down gear. Like I said, we were doing a lot of things with just outstanding gear and okay hell pieces, right? Or inferno pieces, or not inferno pieces, but what are they called, mythic pieces, right? So that's going to be my spiel for that, guys. I'm not going to drag this out any longer. I just want to make sure that you guys had some sort of like kind of food for thought going into this 2 times event, because this is the second time that we've gotten it, and we don't know if and when the next time will be, and you really just want to take advantage of opportunities like this. So let me know what exactly you're farming. What would your advice be, especially if you've been playing or if you are coming in fresh? Let me know in the comment section down below. But everyone, stay blessed, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.